Chosen ones, right now, someone is seething over your name. Their jaw clenches when they hear about your wins. Their stomach turns when they see you thriving. But here's the part that'll blow your mind. They're not mad because you wronged them. They're furious because you saw through their game, stepped over their traps like they were cracks in the sidewalk, and walked into a level of blessing they thought they'd blocked forever. Every scheme they plotted, you dodged it. Every manipulation they crafted, you dismantled it without even breaking a sweat. And now they're sitting in the rubble of their own failed plans, watching you glow brighter than ever, and losing their minds over one simple fact: you outsmarted every single move they made. Today you're about to discover why their rage has nothing to do with you, and everything to do with the divine checkmate they never saw coming. Think of a magician whose trick just got exposed in front of the entire audience. That's them watching you right now. Something happened that they can't explain. Months ago, maybe years ago, they sat down and mapped out your destruction. They knew your soft spots. They studied where you were vulnerable. They watched how you moved through the world, kind, open, trusting, and they saw weakness. In their minds, you were the perfect target, someone they could manipulate, control, tear down and rebuild in whatever image served their ego. They had the whole script written. Act 1, plant seeds of doubt. Act 2, isolate you from support. Act 3, watch you crumble and come crawling back to validate their superiority. Except the story didn't go their way. You saw something they didn't expect you to see. That moment when they dangled the bait, the gossip, the drama, the innocent questions designed to extract confessions they'd weaponize later. You felt it. Something in your spirit whispered, "This isn't right." Your gut screamed even when your heart wanted to trust. And instead of ignoring that divine alarm system, you listened, you stepped back, you observed, you watched them reveal themselves while they thought you were too naive to notice. That was your first move in a game you didn't even know you were dominating. They thought you were clueless. You were gathering intelligence. Here's where their plans started falling apart. They needed you to engage. The whole scheme depended on you lowering yourself to their frequency, meeting them in the mud where they feel powerful. They threw out provocations wrapped in concern. They created situations designed to trigger your emotions. They wanted you angry, defensive, messy, because mess is where they thrive. Mess is their kingdom. Chaos is their language. If they could pull you down into that space, they could control the narrative, twist your reactions, paint you as the problem while they played victim. But you didn't bite. Not once. Not even when it looked tempting, when righteous anger felt justified, when defending yourself seemed necessary. You made a choice that confused the hell out of them. You chose silence over spectacle. You chose dignity over drama. You chose to let your life speak instead of your words. And that choice, that refusal to play their game, it exposed them completely. See, manipulators need participation. Their tricks only work when both people are playing. When you walked away, when you stopped feeding their need for reaction, when you refused to be the puppet they'd fashioned strings for, the whole illusion collapsed. Suddenly, everyone watching could see what you'd already sensed. These people weren't powerful strategists. They were desperate actors performing for an audience that stopped watching. And you weren't even in the theater anymore. You were building something they couldn't see. While they were busy crafting the perfect trap, you were being elevated into a completely different dimension. They were playing checkers. You were being positioned for a destiny that required chess-level strategy they couldn't comprehend. Every door they tried to close, another one opened that they didn't even know existed. Every relationship they poisoned, better connections formed that operated on loyalty instead of leverage. Every opportunity they blocked, a bigger one manifested that had your name on it before they ever started scheming. This is where the anger really took root. They didn't just fail to trap you, they had front-row seats to watch you ascend. The promotion they said you weren't qualified for, you got it. The business they predicted would crash, it's thriving. The peace they swore you'd never find after leaving their toxic circle, you're drowning in it. Success after success after success, and each one is a slap to every prediction they made about your downfall. But here's the twist that's about to reshape how you see this entire situation. Their anger isn't just about your wins, it's about what your wins reveal about their own choices. Every time you rise, you're holding up a mirror they can't escape. You left the same toxic relationship patterns they're still recycling. You walked away from the same dead-end situations they keep justifying. You chose growth in the same areas they chose comfort and excuses. Your existence has become living proof that the limitations they accept as reality are actually choices they keep making, and that truth is unbearable. Think about this. When you left that toxic job, that draining friendship, that relationship that was slowly killing your spirit, what did they say? You'll never find better. You're making a mistake. You need us more than you think. They needed those statements to be true. Not just because they wanted you to fail, but because your success proves they could leave too. Your freedom reveals their chains were always unlocked. Your healing exposes that they're choosing to stay sick. Now you're watching them spiral. The gossip got meaner. The sabotage attempts got sloppier. The manipulation became so obvious it was almost embarrassing, because panic doesn't make people more strategic, it makes them reckless, and they were starting to panic. The story they told themselves about who you were, weak, dependent, destined to fail, that story was disintegrating with every win you posted, every goal you achieved, every level you reached. They doubled down because they had to. Admitting they were wrong about you meant admitting something far more terrifying. They might be wrong about themselves. The excuses they've built their entire identity on. People like us don't succeed. The system is rigged. Happiness isn't realistic. You're demolishing those excuses just by living. And if those excuses are lies, then they've wasted years, maybe decades, accepting a life smaller than what they could have had. That realization would shatter them. So instead, they get angrier at you. Easier to maintain the delusion than face that level of regret. Let's talk about what happened when they tried to guilt you. Remember that moment. They needed something from you. Money, time, energy, access to your space or resources. They came with the manipulation playbook wide open. After everything I've done for you, I thought we were closer than this. You've changed. Every sentence designed to make you feel like protecting your boundaries was a betrayal. They were so confident it would work because it had worked on others. Maybe it had worked on you before, back when you didn't know better. But you'd evolved. You'd done the inner work they skipped. You'd healed the wounds they kept picking at. So when they deployed their tactics, something different happened. Instead of guilt, you felt clarity. Instead of obligation, you felt peace with your decision. Instead of caving, you said the most powerful word they never expected. No, just that. Clean, clear, final. No explanation that they could argue with. No justification they could twist. No apology for having boundaries. Just no. Watch what happened in that moment. Their whole framework collapsed. Manipulators operate on the assumption that good people can be guilted into bad decisions. That kind people will sacrifice themselves to avoid being seen as selfish. That empaths would rather suffer than set boundaries that might hurt feelings. Your no shattered that assumption. It announced that you'd graduated from a school they're still failing. It declared that their opinion of you was no longer your emergency, and it made them furious. If this message hits your spirit, hype this video so more chosen ones like you can find it. Because if you can say no, their whole system of control becomes obsolete. If you can protect your peace without guilt, what does that say about everyone else they're still manipulating? If you can set boundaries and watch them rage without changing your position, how much power did they ever really have? Your no didn't just protect you in that moment, it exposed the weakness of every weapon in their arsenal. Now here's where the story takes a turn that's going to shift your entire perspective. Everything they did, every trap, every scheme, every attempt to destroy you, it was actually part of your preparation. Not because God caused them to be toxic, but because God used their opposition as your training ground. Think about it. You learned discernment by seeing through their masks. You developed strength by standing firm against their pressure. You gained wisdom by observing what manipulation looks like up close. You built an immunity to tactics that would have destroyed the person you used to be. They thought they were attacking you. God was weaponizing their attacks into your armor. Every lie they spread taught you who your real friends were. Every door they closed forced you to build skills to create your own opportunities. Every time they said you weren't enough, you went deeper into understanding that your worth isn't up for vote. They wanted to diminish you. Instead, they refined you. They wanted to break you. Instead, they forged you into someone unbreakable. They wanted to stop your destiny. Instead, they eliminated everything that was slowing you down. This is the level of irony that's driving them insane. Their sabotage became your catapult. Their obstacles became your stepping stones. Their resistance became the very thing that built the strength you needed for the next level, and they can see it. They can see that somehow, impossibly, their plan backfired so spectacularly that you're not just surviving, you're thriving in ways that clearly show divine intervention. And there's nothing they can do about it. That's the real source of their anger now. It's not just that you won, it's that they lost so completely that their defeat is written into your success story. Every testimony you share about overcoming includes their failed attempts. Every victory you celebrate is evidence that their weapons couldn't stop what God ordained. They're not just wrong, they're publicly, permanently, undeniably wrong. Let's go deeper into their psychology, because understanding this will free you completely. These people are miserable in ways they'll never admit out loud. They wake up in situations they hate, surrounded by people they don't trust, living lives that feel like prisons they built themselves. But they can't face that truth directly. It's too painful, so they externalize. They need villains to explain their stagnation. They need someone to blame for why they're not happy. And when you were in their circle, stuck in similar patterns, you were safe, you were company in their misery. Your struggle validated their choices to stay stuck. But then you did something unforgivable. You got free, you healed, you grew, you changed, and suddenly you weren't company anymore. You were a mirror, a walking, breathing reminder that change was always possible, that healing was available, that the prison they're in has an unlocked door they're choosing not to walk through. Your freedom reveals their imprisonment is a choice, and that's a truth they'll fight to their last breath to avoid acknowledging. So they attack, they criticize, they minimize your success, attribute it to luck, claim you've changed for the worse. They need to believe that you paid some terrible price for your growth, that you lost something essential, that you're not really happy. Because if you're genuinely thriving, if you're actually better off without them, if you found peace on the other side of the very changes they're too afraid to make, then what's their excuse? What story can they tell themselves about why they're still stuck? The anger intensifies because the evidence keeps mounting. Every month you're at a new level. Every season you're glowing brighter. Every year you're expanding into spaces they said you'd never reach. And it's not slowing down, it's accelerating. The trajectory of your life makes it clear this isn't temporary luck or a phase. This is who you've become. This is the result of choices they could have made but didn't. Here's what they're too blind to see. You're not lucky. You're aligned. You're not just successful. You're obedient to a calling they don't believe in. You're not just winning. You're walking in purpose that was assigned before their schemes ever began. There's a divine blueprint on your life, and every move you make that looks like you're just figuring it out is actually you walking in supernatural guidance. They can't perceive because they're not operating on that frequency. They see your results. They don't see the spiritual strategy. They see your wins. They don't see the prayer, the faith, the moments you trusted God when logic said to quit. They see where you are. They don't see how many times you almost broke, but something beyond your human strength held you together. They're judging a journey they can't see from a position they never reached, and wondering why their carnal weapons can't defeat a spiritually protected target. This is the climax of the entire situation, chosen one. The moment where everything converges and you see with absolute clarity what's really happening. Their anger has reached its peak because you're about to enter a phase they have no category for. Everything until now was you breaking free, getting healed, building foundation. What's coming next is you walking in the fullness of why you were chosen in the first place. The doors about to open don't just lead to personal blessing, they lead to influence, impact, assignments that affect more than just your life, and they can feel it. On some level they can't articulate, they sense that you're approaching something major. The energy around you is shifting, the favor on your life is becoming visible even to people who don't believe in divine favor. Opportunities are manifesting that don't make logical sense. Connections are forming that skip right past the normal way things happen. You're being positioned, and the opposition knows it. That's why their attacks intensify right before your breakthrough. That's why the anger seems irrational and disproportionate. That's why they can't just let you go and move on with their lives. Because somewhere in their consciousness, they recognize that you're not just another person who left their circle. You're someone with an assignment that threatens the very darkness they're operating from, whether they know it or not. Your purpose scares their dysfunction. Your calling challenges their comfort. Your destiny disrupts their delusions. And the closer you get to walking fully in it, the more desperate their attempts to stop you become. But here's what seals their fate. Every move they make against you from this point forward just accelerates what's already in motion. They're not fighting you anymore. They're fighting the God who assigned you. And that's a battle they already lost. So what do you do with this understanding? How do you move forward, knowing that their anger is permanent until they do their own healing work? Simple. You stop concerning yourself with their emotions and focus entirely on your assignment. Their anger is background noise. Let it play. Let them rage. Let them plot. Let them gossip. None of it has the power to alter your trajectory anymore. You've outgrown the space where their opinions could reach you. This is Big Daddy energy, not arrogance, dominance rooted in divine assignment. You don't have to shrink to make them comfortable. You don't have to slow down so they can keep up. You don't have to dim your light because their eyes are weak. You were chosen for this. You were built for this. You were protected through their attacks for this. And now you get to walk in it fully, unapologetically, powerfully. Let them watch from whatever bitter distance they maintain. Let them stew in confusion about how you keep winning. Let them exhaust themselves trying to find the secret to your success. They won't find it because it's not a formula they can copy. It's divine favor on a life surrendered to purpose. It's supernatural strategy guiding natural steps. It's the hand of God moving obstacles they thought were permanent and creating pathways they swore didn't exist. You're not in competition with them. You never were. They were competing with the vision of you they created in their minds, trying to defeat a version of you that didn't exist. The real you, the chosen one protected by divine purpose, was always going to win. Not because you're better than them as a human, but because you're aligned with something greater than human capability. And here's how this story ends. Chosen one. Full circle. Back to where we started, but with transformed understanding. Remember that person seething over your name right now. They're about to watch you step into a dimension that proves everything. Every doubt they planted, disproven. Every limit they declared, shattered. Every curse they whispered returned to sender. Not because you fought them, but because you stayed focused on your path while they were distracted by their hatred. Their anger becomes the soundtrack to your ascension. Their bitterness becomes the contrast that makes your blessing more visible. Their failed schemes become the testimony of divine protection that encourages everyone watching. They wanted to write a story where you fell. Instead, they became minor characters in a testimony about how God protects his chosen ones from every trap, scheme, and weapon formed against them. You outsmarted every move they made, not through manipulation, but through alignment, not through retaliation, but through elevation, not through engaging their chaos, but through trusting a divine strategy they couldn't see and a protection they don't believe in. And now you stand in the evidence of what happens when purpose meets opposition. Purpose always wins. So walk forward, chosen one, head high, heart confident. Spirit connected to the source that brought you through. Their anger doesn't define you. Their opinions don't direct you. Their schemes don't stop you. You're protected, you're purposed, you're positioned, and you're just getting started. Let them stay mad. You've got a destiny to fulfill. Now let's dig into something they desperately hoped you'd never figure out. The timing of their attacks wasn't random. They struck when you were transitioning, when you were vulnerable, when you were making moves that required faith over certainty. They saw you stepping out, leaving the familiar, reaching for something bigger, and they calculated that moment of uncertainty as their best shot. What they didn't account for was that transitions are where chosen ones are most protected. The moment you step out on faith is precisely when divine covering intensifies. They thought they were attacking you at your weakest. They were actually challenging you at your most dangerous. Dangerous to every limitation, every lie, every force trying to keep you contained. Their timing revealed their desperation. Strong people don't kick others when they're down. Secure people don't attack during someone's transition. But insecure, threatened, spiritually bankrupt people, they strike exactly when they think you can't fight back. And that's how you knew, not from what they said, but from when they said it, that everything coming out of their mouth was projection. Happy people don't sabotage. Healed people don't scheme. Whole people don't need to tear others down to feel elevated. Watch what happened during those transitions. You were changing jobs, and they whispered you weren't qualified. You were ending toxic patterns, and they predicted you'd fail alone. You were choosing yourself for the first time, and they called it selfish. Every attack was perfectly timed to make you doubt the very move that would liberate you. But something in you, that divine knowing, said keep going, and you did. You pushed through the doubt they planted. You moved despite the fear they tried to magnify. You transitioned anyway, and on the other side you found exactly what they said wouldn't be there. Peace, provision, purpose. That's when their anger turned to rage, because your successful transition proved their predictions were worthless. It demonstrated that their judgment of your readiness meant nothing. It showed that divine timing doesn't need human approval. And worst of all for them, it meant other people watching might get inspired to make their own transitions out of the very systems and circles where these manipulators hold power. Your freedom threatened their empire. Even if that empire was just a small circle of dysfunction, it was their kingdom, and you escaped. That makes you dangerous. Not because you're trying to destroy anything, you're just living your truth. But your truth is so bright, so obvious, so undeniable, that it exposes the darkness others are trying to hide in. You didn't set out to be a threat, you just refused to stay contained. And containment breaking always looks threatening to those who profit from keeping people boxed in. Here's another layer they hoped you'd miss. Their anger isn't just about you. It's about everyone you represent. You're not the first person they've tried to control. You're just the first one who got away completely. Before you, there were others who pushed back but eventually caved. Others who set boundaries but eventually dropped them. Others who tried to leave but came back after the pressure got intense. You didn't follow that pattern. You left and stayed gone. You set boundaries and maintained them. You said no and meant it. And that's terrifying to people whose entire social structure depends on worn-down people eventually giving in. You broke the cycle. You shattered the pattern. You proved that their pressure has limits, their guilt trips have expiration dates, their manipulation has a ceiling, and now everyone else they're trying to control has a reference point. They can look at you and think, if they got free, maybe I can too. You became the evidence that liberation is possible, and manipulators hate nothing more than evidence that contradicts their narratives of impossibility. Think about the conversations happening in their circles right now. Your name comes up and someone asks, why are you still so mad at them? They've been gone for months. And watch what happens. The manipulator can't give a rational answer because there isn't one. They can't say I'm mad because they escaped and now my control over others is weakening. They can't admit I'm furious because their success proves I've been lying about what's possible. So instead, they manufacture reasons, they create stories, they build elaborate justifications for an anger that has no legitimate foundation. But the people listening, some of them are starting to see through it. Some of them are noticing that the anger seems disproportionate, obsessive, unhinged. Some of them are quietly watching you from a distance, seeing you thrive and questioning the narrative they've been fed. Your absence from the toxicity is speaking louder than any defense you could have offered. Your peace is more convincing than any argument. Your results are better evidence than any explanation. This is the power of walking away and winning. You don't have to defend yourself when your life is the defense. You don't have to argue your case when your reality makes the case for you. You don't have to convince anyone of anything when the proof is in your peace, your progress, your evident transformation. The manipulators can talk, you can glow, and eventually people figure out who was telling the truth. Let's talk about what they lost when you left. They lost their punching bag. Yes, they lost someone to project onto, definitely. But more than that, they lost their excuse. As long as you were in their circle struggling like they were struggling, they could tell themselves that struggle was just the reality everyone faced. Your presence in their dysfunction normalized it. But when you extracted yourself and started flourishing, you took their excuse with you. Now they have to face that the common denominator in their continued struggle isn't the world, the system, or bad luck, it's them. That's a brutal realization they're not ready to face. So instead of looking inward, they look at you with rage. Instead of asking themselves what needs to change, they ask why you think you're better than them. Instead of doing the work you did to get free, they do the work of trying to tear down your freedom. It's exhausting just watching it, and you're not even watching anymore. You're too busy building. Here's what's happening in the spiritual realm while they're focused on the natural. Every attack they launch, every curse they speak, every scheme they plot, it's being recorded. Not by you, by the universe, by God, by the laws of sowing and reaping that govern this existence. They think they're getting away with it because you're not retaliating. But retaliation isn't yours to handle. Vindication isn't your responsibility. Justice isn't your job. Your job is to keep walking, keep growing, keep glowing. The rest? That's handled by forces they don't believe in until those forces start showing up in their reality. And trust me, chosen one, it's already showing up. The bitterness they're carrying is poisoning their own lives. The energy they're spending on hating you is energy not going into building anything positive for themselves. The mental space you occupy in their mind rent-free is space they could have used for healing, growth, or actual progress. They're defeating themselves while thinking they're attacking you, and you don't even have to do anything except live well. This is the ultimate checkmate. They're trapped in a game where every move they make against you actually strengthens your position. It's like they're playing chess against an opponent who's already 10 moves ahead, but they can't see it. So they keep moving pieces, thinking they're strategic, not realizing the board was set before they ever made their first move. Divine strategy always beats human scheming, always, and you're watching it play out in real time. Now here's what you need to prepare for, because this is where many chosen ones stumble. There will come a moment, maybe it already happened, when they try to come back, when the anger burns out and transforms into something else, maybe fake remorse, maybe attempted reconciliation, maybe sudden interest in your life now that you're winning. They'll show up with, "I always knew you'd make it," or "We should catch up," or "I miss the old days." And this is a test, because your heart, your beautiful empathic heart, might want to believe they've changed. Your forgiving nature might want to give them another chance. Your compassionate spirit might feel bad for how far they've fallen while you've risen. But here's what you need to understand. Changed people move differently. Healed people acknowledge their wrongs specifically. Transformed people don't just show up when you're winning, they supported you when you were building. If they're only interested now that you're glowing, they're not interested in you, they're interested in access to what you have. This is where discernment becomes crucial. Not everyone who apologizes is sorry, not everyone who returns is restored, not everyone who wants back in has done the work required to be in your space. Your boundaries aren't suggestions for people to test. They're gates you control. And just because someone knocks doesn't mean you have to open. You don't owe anyone access to the peace you fought to build, the healing you sacrificed to achieve, the level you worked to reach. Watch their actions, not their words. Changed people demonstrate change over time, not just in one conversation. Healed people respect boundaries without resentment. Transformed people prove their transformation through consistency, not just through claims. If they're rushing you to trust them again, that's a red flag. If they're pushing past your boundaries while claiming they've changed, that's manipulation in a new costume. If they're demanding you forget the past without acknowledging what they did, that's someone who wants access without accountability. You've come too far to let guilt pull you back. You've grown too much to shrink into old patterns. You've healed too deeply to let toxic people reinfect your life with their unresolved issues. Stand firm in your boundaries. Let your no be no. Let your peace be protected. Let your space be sacred. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table, and that's not mean it's wise, because here's what they still don't understand. You're not the same person they tried to trap. That version of you who didn't see their games, gone. That version who felt guilty for having boundaries, extinct. That version who prioritized their comfort over your peace, dead and buried. The you that exists now is sharper, wiser, more discerning. You've been through the fire and came out refined. You've faced their worst and emerged stronger. You're not who they remember, and you're definitely not who they could control. This upgraded version of you terrifies them, because it means all their old tactics are obsolete, all their manipulation strategies need updating, all their guilt trips bounce off the armor you've built. They're dealing with someone who knows their playbook, has studied their patterns, and refuses to engage with their drama. That's why some of them stay angry. They can't accept that you've evolved beyond their reach, and you're still evolving. That's the part that's going to blow their minds in the next season. What they've seen so far, that was just you getting stable. That was you building foundation. That was you healing and establishing yourself. What comes next is you expanding. What comes next is you walking in the fullness of your calling, operating in gifts they didn't know you had, reaching heights they didn't know existed. The doors opening for you in this next phase don't just lead to personal success, they lead to influence, they lead to platforms, they lead to opportunities to impact thousands, maybe millions of people with the testimony of how you overcame. And when that happens, when your story reaches people they could never reach, when your message liberates people they've kept trapped, when your light shines in spaces they can't access, their anger will either transform into respect or consume them completely. Now let me put you onto something real. Destiny Engine. I built this because I was done watching chosen ones get dragged through betrayal, isolation and attacks, while their enemies strutted around unchecked. I want to help you accelerate the speed of your divine justice and step fully into your purpose. And the beauty of it, you don't even have to lift a finger. Destiny Engine takes their downfall and flips it into your rise. This isn't another meditation app. It's declassified consciousness technology, the same mind programming tools your enemies once used to install fear, competition and scarcity, re-engineered to restore your sovereignty and align you with the cooperative, upgraded operating framework. It generates personalized sequences mapped to your divine purpose. The hardest thing you'll do is put on headphones, press play, and watch your enemies keep digging their own grave. The collective upgrade is underway. Start your Destiny Engine for $1 today and turn everything they did to break you into fuel for your rise. Link in the description. Either way, it's not your concern. Your concern is stewardship. Stewarding the gifts you've been given. Stewarding the platform being built. Stewarding the assignment you've been called to. Stewarding your peace, your energy, your focus. Small-minded people focus on who's mad at them. Kingdom-minded people focus on what they're building. And chosen one, you're building something that will outlast every person who tried to stop you. So let's bring this full circle to where we began. That person seething over your name right now. That anger is their prison, not yours. You've already moved past them mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You're building while they're bitter. You're creating while they're complaining. You're ascending while they're obsessing. And the gap between where you are and where they're stuck is only going to widen. This is your moment to fully embrace what it means to be chosen. Not chosen because you're perfect, you're not. Not chosen because you never make mistakes, you do. Chosen because there's an assignment on your life that requires you to be refined, protected, positioned. Chosen because your test is someone else's testimony. Chosen because your breakthrough is going to inspire someone else's escape. Chosen because your victory is evidence that God protects his own. Walk in that, own that, live that. Let their anger be the proof that you're doing something right. Let their obsession be confirmation that you're a threat to every limitation they wanted to place on you. Let their rage be the soundtrack to your rise. Because while they're busy being mad, you're busy being blessed. While they're consumed with bitterness, you're consumed with purpose. While they're stuck in yesterday's offense, you're building tomorrow's empire. This is what outsmarting looks like. Not through fighting, not through revenge, not through proving anything to anyone, but through staying true, staying focused, staying aligned with the divine strategy that was working on your behalf long before you knew you needed it. You didn't just survive their attacks, chosen one. You transmuted them into fuel. You converted their opposition into opportunity. You transformed their intended destruction into your divine elevation. And that, more than anything else, is why they're mad. Because you didn't just win, you won in a way that proves they were never the threat they thought they were. You won in a way that exposes divine protection is real. You won in a way that encourages everyone watching to trust their own journey, set their own boundaries, walk their own path, even when people get mad about it. So keep walking, keep shining, keep winning. Their anger is temporary, your purpose is eternal, their schemes are failing. Your destiny is unfolding. They're stuck in the past. You're stepping into a future so bright it's going to require them to finally look away or get healed enough to genuinely celebrate you. Either way, chosen one, you're free. And that freedom, that unshakable, well-earned, divinely protected freedom, is worth every moment of their anger. Let them stay mad. You've got a world to change.